All right, let's take you to Ste-Catherine Street. Let's take you to downtown Montreal, where we find Glenn Castanheira, Executive Director of Montreal Centre-Ville. One of our favorites around here. Glenn, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I kind of want to call this segment the good, the bad, and the ugly of downtown Montreal, because we have a lot to get to. There's good news coming, but first things first, let's talk just about the construction apocalypse vibes that we're getting from some parts of downtown Montreal, the stretch of Ste-Catherine Street in particular. You've been on before and you made some excellent points about how the city handles this kind of thing. Let's get the update here. It's 2024 now, as I've been reminded this morning. So tell me, how are we handling the downtown St. Catherine construction?
For the specific project of St. Catherine, we're handling it better, or I must say, to give credit where credit's due, the city is handling it better than I have seen them do so ever, I have to say. And I experienced many construction sites, many major projects with them. Let's remember Boulevard Saint-Laurent, which was a fiasco. The different phases of St. Catherine, the phases of Laurier Street, Saint-Denis. This is, so far, the best one I've seen downtown and one of the best ones I've seen in the city. That being said, when I say best, it's best in the way they keep it clean, the way that they concentrate the construction on smaller portions instead of extending them too long and then leaving areas void of work. So in that sense, it's much better. Now, where it hasn't gotten better, unfortunately, is that we're still working on an 8 to 4 shift, right? And laws doesn't allow the city to force contractors to work 24/7, and there's still some litigation. Some businesses actually don't want them to work 24/7. Sometimes, at least they're allowed to work 24/7. There's a distinction. So sometimes they'll do some work after businesses close in order to not disrupt them so much if they have to, shut off water or whatnot. But it's still a major construction site. I have to say that, Elias, what's hurting us more than the specific construction site of St. Catherine, which, mind you, it's roughly 200 meters. What's really hurting is everything around it. It's the REM construction site. We still have, chicken fence style fences that are there. We had to insist for them to remove banners that were covered in graffiti right in front of terraces of restaurants that were reopening. It's Orange Cone Festival for every 2-inch hole that anybody has to dig. You have 50 cones that pop up. That's still a major issue.
Glenn, you can never make everyone happy. But if you were someone who was in charge and had to make the most people happy, would you say we have to impose 24-hour work sites? If the work site is there has to be work done and not just sitting there for 2/3 of the day?
Yeah. I think obviously the short answer is yes. Unfortunately, we have laws that doesn't allow us to do that just yet. But I do think if we all agree that this is a priority, that we have over 30 years of delay in our maintenance of our infrastructure. And I think it's important for our listeners to realize this. A lot of this work is not only essential, it is way overdue. We're talking about plumbing that's been there since the 1800s that can burst at any moment. And the one thing that's worse than a construction site is an unexpected construction site due to pipes bursting or sinkholes popping up. That's catastrophic. Now, but in an ideal world, or if we all agree that we should change those laws and be able for specific areas to force 24/7 work, and heck, it's going to cost us a lot more, and that's very true, but we're going to save a lot more, and maybe that would help us catch up on what's overdue.
And I've always been told time is money, and if you can do the work in 1/3 of the time, and it's 1 month instead of 3 months, just Glenn, what do you think the look is for the tourists this summer that are coming to this city? It seems like there's rebounds and and it looks like we're going to have a good year here. But what do you think about the look, the face that we're putting on for our tourists?
Normally I would tell you that we're putting on a pretty good face, and I have to tell you we're working extremely hard to keep downtown as attractive as possible. And I have to say that many of the people I work with the city, at the city, do so as well. That being said, I just got off the phone with our Minister of Tourism, and we are quite concerned about the look of not just downtown, but of our city, as we're expecting hordes of visitors, starting with the Grand Prix. We got calls of, different groups coming to see the city before representing larger groups that I can't name right now, that are quite concerned. And I'm used to us being concerned, but normally when the visitors come, they're happy. When the visitors come and say they're concerned, that gets me very concerned.
Yeah,
and I'm normally very optimistic, and I still am. But as we're talking now, I'm very concerned.
And as the clock ticks towards Grand Prix weekend, I mean, there's a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just get to the good, right? Because there are 60 sites in downtown that you're working on making more beautiful and pretty, for lack of a better term here. Why didn't you explain the good-looking parts, or trying to make parts of downtown look better?
Well, one of the things that makes our downtown exceptional, and mind you, that makes if you think of a beautiful downtown that you've been to, rather here in North America and Europe, it's the quality of the public spaces, right? And what we did at Downtown Montreal, because we are the business community, we always want to optimize every single dollar. So we ordered a study with Stantec Canada, which are they have their offices here in Downtown Montreal, to look at the potential. We cut a lot of ribbons when the city creates a new public space. We looked at how can we reuse what we already have. Before closing a new street, what do we already have that we can beautify? And we identified 60 public spaces in downtown. And, good luck naming me 10 of them. Most people don't even know we have the potential of 60 places, right? And come up with a plan to beautify them and make them accessible to everyone in the coming years. And we're starting this summer with 8 of them, amongst them Philip Square, Dorchester Square, Victoria Square, and Place Jean-Paul Riopel, as well as Le Monastère, which is a St. Jack's Church on Ste-Catherine, and a public plaza in Shaughnessy, in the western part of Ste-Catherine. All that really for people to enjoy downtown. And mind you, that's what people are asking us for. Our surveys show that when people come downtown, they want to linger, they want to have a good time, they want it to be clean and pretty. And heck, we're basically applying what you'll see in New York and places like Bryant Park. We're applying it here downtown.
And how did it come about, Glenn? Like what, and you talk about Bryant Park in New York City. How did this come about as an initiative in the first place?
Well, it came about because we kept seeing that depending on the mood of different elected officials or some leaders, you would see projects pop up like, we're going to create a public space here and we're going to do tactical urbanism there. And it's very cute with, treated wood and 2x4s, and it pops up and it disappears. Uh-huh. Well, and we would see that it would cost a tremendous amount of money, of public money, which we don't have enough of, and yet we're paying enough taxes. And there would be some sort of improvisation. And because we want to be pragmatic, we looked at the best practice and best practices in cities like San Francisco that did a similar study 2 years ago. And then we said, well, we need this for ourselves. And so we went to go look in other cities at the best practices, and we've applied it here, which is to optimize. Again, Elias, we're too poor to be cheap and to throw our money out the window. We need to be strategic with what we do with our money, and it's a public-private partnership. I think that's also very important for our listeners to understand. We're talking about places that we, the private sector, are willing to invest in to make them accessible to all the public. Some of them are fully public spaces. Some of them are private spaces that are publicly accessible. If you look at Esplanade PVM of Place Ville-Marie, right? That's private space, but it's accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
McGill Campus is private space, and yet it's accessible to everyone, as we can see now with a certain camp being set up there. But jokes aside, and that's it. And to conclude on it, Bryant Park, I think it's important also for your listeners to know, if you go there and check it out, Bryant Park, it is a public space, but it's 100% managed by the private sector that pays for this. All the chairs you see, all the kiosks you see, the security guards, the public bathroom, all that is paid for by the private sector. And it's not because private does it better. It's because when you have a good public-private partnership that ensures the stewardship of public spaces, you get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and it pays off for the businesses at the end of the day. If you create these spaces, these people come and they want to shop. Listen, we have to leave it there. Glenn, it's always a pleasure, and I wish you a fantastic, fantastic summer.
Thank you very much. You too.
Glenn Castanheira, Executive Director of Montreal Centre-Ville.